Hello, everyone, and welcome back to... Is my mic picking up? Hold on. I did not check.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast, the podcast, episode 61.
Yes.
I don't know if you can hear Russ, but he was not sure, so I picked up.
Yeah. We're good. We're good. Technical difficulties. The last thing I didn't check before we started was my mic, so we are here. My mic's working.
We are here, and we are still technically inept.
Hey, man. Look, we've only been doing this for 61 weeks. Like, it's not like...
Yeah, come on now.
It's not like we've been doing it that long at all. It's only 61 weeks. Anyways.
Someone that I listen to regularly just passed the 2,000 episode mark, so I think we're doing good.
Jesus, 2,000.
Yeah.
One of the podcasts I listen to is in the 500s. So, we're
doing good.
We're doing okay. We're young. We're getting our baby feet.
Yeah.
So Tim, how's your week been, man? I didn't see you last week. Listen to the episode. I got some thoughts. We got some stuff to discuss. But how you been? How was your week?
I'm looking forward to hearing how stupid I was last week. Anyways. My week's been storied, man. I got the chiggers at the moment because I got a new dog this week, and I had to put up a fence. I just bought some T-posts and some 14 gauge wire and put it up, and thankfully didn't get poison ivy because I walked all the fuck over it. But I got the chiggers and I realized it today, and I'm like, oh, wonderful, fantastic. And thankfully I've got a means of combating those. But other than that, the new dog has been a learning experience, which means loss of sleep. Yesterday morning, so I've been going on a run with her in the mornings to kind of help get some of the energy out. She's a border collie. She's 8 months old.
Yeah, she needs to run.
And so I've been going on a run with her, and I've noticed after today that there's some very specific points where I don't know what it is, but she doesn't like it. We'll be running along the street, and there's one house, and then around a corner, for some reason, she doesn't like whatever it is that's there. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, she doesn't like it, and she bolts the other direction. Like if it's to her right, she bolts left. And for me, yesterday morning, she tripped my ass while we were running, because she ran right in front of my feet, and I hit the ground hard. Like I'm hurting, like my back hurts because of it, because I hit the ground hard. I'm surprised I went into work yesterday. Like that's how bad it was. I got scrapes all down my back. I could show you one of them, but it hurts. But in any case, it's been an experience. But she's a good dog. She's smart. She's a good dog. She's learning quick, and I just gotta adjust to her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. My week's been a dead sprint since Tuesday. My partner, who I usually ride with, he got an bacterial infection in his eyes, so he's been out all week. Temperatures have been over 100 degrees all week, so working in that's been a lot of fun.
That's crazy, especially because your wife is also sick, right?
Yep. Yeah. So she got sick Tuesday, so I've been trying to do everything, and I am exhausted. I was up until 2 a.m. yesterday trying to edit about 7 weeks of workout videos, my shadow boxing, because I'd get about 30 minutes in, and then my daughter would wake up.
Wait a minute. I thought we said you were giving up so you could be a fat ass like Wally.
No, I'm never going back to that. Never going back.
I just snorted.
So I would get 30 minutes of editing in, and then Maury would wake up and come out, and I'd have to take her back to bed. And just all night long. So I got no sleep. And then got up this morning, took her to go swimming, which we had fun, but wore me the hell out, wore her out, and it's just been I'm excited for her to go to grandma's tomorrow so I can have some me time and recoup before I have to do it all again next week. So
let me ask you, when she goes to grandma's, does she come back all sorts of undisciplined?
No, my
kids do.
my mom's pretty great. It's also, she's a celiac, so she's discipline is just kind of part of life for her now, in terms of being strict and so yeah, that's how my week's been. I'm happy to sit down and finally be back. I did get some unfortunate news. I was not granted media access for PAX coming up next month, but I still will be going. So look for me. I'll be handing out business cards, trying to get people to listen to this podcast. You know what that means,
listeners? That means you need to follow us and you need to share us so we can get bigger, so we can go to these events.
Speaking of following and sharing us, check out our Patreon. Thanks for the great segue. We have one of those. I know we don't plug it very often at the front of the episode. We're trying to do do that now so that we can maybe get some more help over there. Our lowest tier is $3. And let me tell you, for a podcast, that's incredibly low. Most podcasts I listen to, you're looking at like $10 to $12 starting for their base tiers, which is wild to me. I don't understand. They do offer some stuff we don't offer, but with our Patreon subscription at $3, you're given early access to all of our episodes. You get them Tuesday, and there's a Spotify specific link or feed that you can link to get those directly through Spotify. I have that set up so you don't have to go to a Patreon site and download it every week. It goes straight to a private Spotify channel specifically for patrons. In addition to that, when and if we ever do get big enough to run ads, which trust me, we will, because I want money, Tim wants money, and money lets us do things like give giveaways and things like we've discussed before.
We want to give you guys video games.
So when and if we ever make a chance to make ads, I hate to tell you this, we're going to run ads. If you don't want ads, that $3 fee, make sure you never get an ad other than this one, because I'm not going to cut this out of our podcast. So consider donating over there. It's $3 a month, less than a cup of coffee. Probably one of the cheapest podcasts you'll ever donate to, and we really appreciate it. So,
and let me add, if you have any suggestions for tier perks, we'll consider them.
Yeah, definitely.
If there's some podcasts you listen to and you like the perks that they offer and you want us to do that, then, we'll think about it. Let us know what they are. If we can improve anything, give us that criticism. Tell us we suck and tell us why so we can improve it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We're willing to listen.
Definitely. Tim and I are both military veterans as well. So like thick skin is kind of just the name of the game. Yeah. So hurl all the insults you want. I'm used to it. And honestly, I live with a motto of I'm probably wrong is generally how I live my life. So
it's not bad.
Not bad. I just assume I'm wrong on most things. But let's talk about something I'm not wrong on. Assassin's Creed Shadows. Ubisoft has been they've been hitting some rocks. We talked about them last time I was on 2 weeks ago now on episode 59. We talked about how Mirage underperformed on the iPhone. We talked about how Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake, they moved a bunch of devs over, then laid off 33 of them. Ubisoft has some weird stuff going on, and I really wanted to give Assassin's Creed Shadows the benefit of the doubt, but the deeper I went down this rabbit hole,
the worst it got.
I gotta say, this Assassin's Creed, like I dubbed Red Fail, Assassin's Creed P. This is ACP, Assassin's Creed plagiarism. It's not good. It's real bad.
It's when he said it's real bad, at first it was basically they had plagiarized an emblem. Actually, no. Let me start over. It actually was before the flag. It was their collector's edition, which I think is what you're referencing. Now that I think about it, the collector's edition, the flag that's on the collector's edition is actually inaccurate. Not only is it the writing is incorrect and so on and so forth. It turns out they then plagiarized the flag from effectively a reenactment studio,
a real group, real reenactment group.
Yeah. And just the other day, I think it was yesterday, someone discovered that one of the swords, Yasuke's sword in the video game in any case, is actually literally carbon copied from One Piece. I don't remember the character, but one of the characters in One Piece.
I don't remember the guy's name. He's the guy that uses Zoro. The guy who uses he uses 3 swords.
I don't watch that particular anime, even though it's one of the more popular ones in existence. They carbon copied his samurai sword, his katana, literally carbon copied it so badly that when it was brought to their attention, the guy that did so, or female, whoever it was that did it, I don't know, basically said, "Yep, totally did that. My bad."
Yeah.
How do you hire people so incompetent that they're just going to copy things they find on the internet? I seriously?
Yeah, it's really not great. Like there's this one that's on screen right now because it goes further than that. That's what I found out too, right? First I heard about the reenactment flag, then you had mentioned the sword. Well, it turns out on the Japanese or Ubisoft Japan website, there is not website, but the Twitter feed or whatever, Japanese Ubisoft Twitter. Yeah. There was a lot of people very upset about this. And I really wanted to give Ubisoft the benefit of the doubt. I really wanted to hope that maybe Assassin's Creed Shadow was going to be great. I wanted to say, it doesn't matter if Yasuke was actually a samurai or not.
Real or not.
It doesn't even matter if he's a real person or not, because Assassin's Creed has altered history. Like, it doesn't matter. But the further this goes on, the more we get into it, the more things do start to matter. What's on screen right now, granted, I can tell you right now, this is probably an AI issue, not really a plagiarism issue. This is an early art from Assassin's Creed Shadow, where people literally put squares and circles around stuff and drew them to real world references and real world images that were taken and thrown into this image. My guess is this is an AI art generation, and the AI art drug from all these sources. I don't think this was copied intentionally, quote unquote, by an individual artist. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think an artist sat down.
Basically what you're saying is someone didn't go to Google and found these images. They used an AI generator of some sort, which then copied these images. Yes. And they said, not enough for me.
Yeah. That is my guess. I can't say for sure how these images were made, but that's my guess. And honestly, if it stopped here, it wouldn't have been an issue, because this is just concept art. This is just art for internal use and promotion, so that you get an idea of the scope and the style and the vision of the game. That's the point of concept art. It's concept.
Yes.
It's to get you the idea, right? So if it just stopped here, it wouldn't have been an issue. But then you had the flag, and then you had them openly just go, yeah, our bad. Like, and this isn't exclusive to Ubisoft. This is a problem that's happened in Star Wars, where in fact Disney has been criticized for stealing fan-made art of starships and using it in their shows and not crediting the artists. We're not talking about Alkalite.
Let's not talk about Star Wars, please. I can go for too long.
We become the Star Wars podcast.
Yeah. Oh my God, Acolyte.
Yeah. So if it's just stopped with the concept art, it wouldn't have been an issue. But it's continuing this pattern of well, how much of this is intentional, and then it goes further than that, right? So. Go ahead, Tim.
For me, what it really makes me wonder is, so our society used to be a meritocracy, right? Which means if you have the ability to do something, that's good enough. You can then do this job. You're good at it. Let's go ahead and put you in this position. It seems like we've moved away from meritocracy for some reason. I don't know why, and I'm not going to speculate why. But the problem is it's now showing.
Yeah.
In such a major franchise like Assassin's Creed, which, to be fair, it's moved away from historical accuracy like the first game had, where they literally took things out of the game because it was historically inaccurate, to,
well,
okay, this
Odyssey.
is kind of history. Exactly. Whatever. This is just based on history.
Yeah.
But like, at this point, it's like you said, ACP. It's Assassin's Creed plagiarism now. Yeah. In this point, because they're too lazy or something, I think it's incompetence. Like you said, they're using AI generators, more than likely, not necessarily confirmed, but they're doing something, obviously, and they're effectively stealing from other people, and they're being caught left and right. Because this stuff is really easily verifiable. It turns out Japanese history is rather storied and people like it.
And it's very well documented. I mean, other than the Roman era, I'm pretty sure Japan has probably the greatest records, like, of their entire existence. Let's be real.
Yeah. I mean, if they were gonna move away from historical accuracy, cool.
Yeah.
Do you have to steal the things?
Well,
do you have to steal from like one of the most popular anime that exists?
Yeah.
Seriously?
That was a bad call. That was a real bad call. And it's even like the holder. I had a picture of it up here, and you'll see it again in the stream. It's the stand for the katana is literally the exact same characters as Zoro's or whatever his name is.
Not just the katana, but the stand as
same
well.
Color,
seriously?
Same characters. It's real bad,
man.
So
it's baffling.
Initially, my argument for Yasuke was it's Assassin's Creed. Right. It's always altered history. It's cool that he was a real figure and that we're playing as him. I think that's pretty cool. I think if this is, again, the affirmative action thing or whatever you want to call it, a boardroom decision, kind of like the worst line in Star Wars that was ever written. Well, from my point of view, the Senate's wrong. Ugh, makes my skin crawl. Anyways.
Well, Jedi are evil now. So anyway, we're talking about Assassin's Creed.
This was the best version of that we were going to get because it's a real world person that existed for whatever reason
an unknown period of time.
And so it worked. But, well, now there's actually a politician in Japan, a Japanese politician, who is investigating Assassin's Creed for cultural inaccuracies and cultural appropriation.
Which is a little strange to me, given I'm an American, and like that's like, okay, good for you. You can't do shit about that, but maybe they can in Japan, and maybe they can. I don't know, have some sort of sway over it. The reason why that we're talking about this is there's actually a petition in Japan to cancel the game in Japan. And what's the numbers at this point?
So currently, there is 82,222 signatures on a petition to cancel the game because of its, quote, serious insult to Japanese culture and history. That is 50,000 more than it had a week ago. So
yeah, and just keep in mind that Japanese culture honor is extremely important.
Yeah.
To the point with which I don't know why I can't remember the name of this. I was actually talking to someone about this at work the other day. But the
seppuku.
What was it called? No. The Nintendo console that was like the first, quote, VR. What's that called? The Game Boy.
Virtual Boy. Virtual Boy.
There you go. The person that designed, invented, and made that, when it failed hardcore, when I'm talking about honor in Japanese culture, instead of firing the man, they actually demoted him to effectively janitor because that was more dishonorable in their society. To demote him than to fire him.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind for Japanese culture. Honor is extremely important. And so when it comes to a game like this, that's basically dishonoring their history and whatnot, that means a lot to them.
So this particular argument the politician makes, again, I'm not going to pronounce any Japanese names correctly because I am an uneducated white boy, so I'm just not going to try. So this politician, basically, I understand his point of view, and I have to agree with him, unfortunately. As much as I think what they've done with Assassin's Creed Shadow was the best possible way to do what they did, hearing it from this point of view, I think this game needs to go away or go under some serious redevelopment. So, quote, so far, the machine translated consensus is that Shadows depicts the Japanese as, quote, barbaric, routinely using beheading as entertainment and forcing seppuku with a black samurai violently cutting Japanese people in half. The samurai in question, Yasuke, is depicted as someone more important in Japanese history than he actually was, adding to the already long list of problems Hamada sees. So the fact that he's a black samurai aside, he existed. It doesn't matter. That is irrelevant. But from the view of the Japanese people, which at this point, let me tell you, there's a lot of them complaining. I don't understand the language, and Google Translate did a shit job when I was on the Twitter feed. But the Japanese culture is upset about this, and they have every right to be. And from this point of view, seeing it as a quote-unquote outsider, right, being a black samurai killing Japanese people, I could understand this guy's
not just killing Japanese people, but like brutalizing them in ways that at the time that was not okay.
Yeah. And this is the most violent Assassin's Creed has ever been, I would say.
Yes.
Like without question. So here's
when I say that was not okay, literally, I mentioned, the whole honor thing. Japanese samurai would kill themselves via seppuku because they dishonored themselves in some way.
Yeah.
They lost in battle dishonorably, or they killed someone dishonorably, or whatever. Honor is important to the Japanese culture. If you dishonored yourself or your family, you'd kill yourself. Yeah. Yet we have a black samurai suddenly just like brutalizing people in a very modern way.
Yeah. Well,
and it's literally an affront to Japanese culture.
That's what makes Ghost of Tsushima such a great game, is you have that conflict. You have Jin trying to stay a samurai and keep his honor, and realizing that to succeed, he has to give up that honor. It's a very compelling story. We don't maybe that's in this game. Maybe Yasuke starts that way and realizes he needs to be a bit more brutal, but we don't have that context right now. So we don't know that that's the case.
Let me add some context here, although I can't back this up, but me and Russ, well before Ghost of Tsushima ever came out, we called that this was going to be the birth of the assassin with Ghost of Tsushima, and we were right.
Yeah. At E3, I was like, this is the beginning of fucking ninjas. Yeah.
And we called it. We looked up the history. We deep dived into it. It was awesome. And then the fact to be proven. Anyways, Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. So here's another quote from Hamada. Quote, in decades, that's the wild thing. Because when you really think about time and how easy it is for things to get misconstrued through history, it really only takes about 5 decades at most.
Yeah.
So
take long.
Here's the crazy thing, right? So, quote, in decades, there might be a perception that Black people created Japanese history, as some comments are already suggesting this is unacceptable for those who love Japan. What can be done about this? Is basically, I think that's a bit extreme, but at the same time, like, yeah, when you're making a game and passing it off as somewhat historically accurate, and you're basically making this pinnacle character, Yasuke, who is not of Japanese origin, such a pivotal character, who's to say 50 years from now, people don't look at this game as probably more factual than it should be?
Man, I'm going to argue here a little bit. I mean, I think this particular politician is accurate. I mean, hell, you can look at modern history, and I mean, like the last couple of years, which is crazy to me. Like, I don't understand this. It makes no sense to me whatsoever because I love psychology, so I don't understand this. But you can look at 2 years ago, and people have totally different understandings of things.
Yeah.
Yet there's literally video evidence to prove it one way or another. Yeah. Doesn't matter who you are, what you're talking about. And so 50 years from now, I can only imagine. Yeah. I can only imagine.
Yeah. So it's a fair concern. I think it's a little out there, but you're not wrong. I mean, everybody has a very different view of what happened with the COVID situation and what it was and how it. And
I wasn't even talking about COVID, actually, now that you mentioned it, but sure.
I mean, that's where my brain went.
But. I literally was, and I was just talking about in super generalized terms on anything.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I want Assassin's Creed Shadow to be good. I have waited for a Ninja Assassin's Creed game since the end of the first one.
Yes.
And it is incredibly disappointing to see the quality of the game that Assassin's Creed was, even just back to Black Flag and where it's at now. It's just disheartening and really disappointing. Like, I feel super let down by Ubisoft because Ubisoft worked on those games as a multicultural company. They had people from
with love and care, and they were doing their best to be as respectful to whatever society it is that they were, catering to,
and accurate to a point. Accurate to a point. Yeah. And it doesn't feel like that's what they're doing in this one. It doesn't feel like that's what they've done since 4, maybe Syndicate.
Yeah,
maybe
of all the cultures, for them to be as honorable and respectful to. This is the one that they've chose to be the most disrespectful to.
Yeah.
It's disappointing.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, the game still looks fun. It still looks like a good game. But at the same time, when do you call enough?
Yeah.
It's a struggle for me because the game looks fun. I want to play it,
dude. I basically played the entire game solely as
Yasuke.
Neo. Yeah. I would just want to be a ninja. Yeah. Like, I just want more ninjas. Give me more ninjas. I want ninjas.
Give me more. What's the game escapes me at the moment?
Tenchu.
Tell me the
Tenchu. There you go. Give me Tenchu. Bring back Tenchu. So give me Tenchu. Just give me Tenchu.
Yeah, and Naoe looks like a Tenchu-like game.
Yeah,
and appropriately, thankfully.
Yeah,
but man, like, when do you let enough be enough? When do you let your morals really guide you?
Yeah,
and in video games, it's kind of a hard thing to say, but man, with the whole advent of AI and I talked about this last week. Nintendo basically said that they're not going to use AI in their games because they have decades of history and of history and experience, and so why use that? While all these other companies are like, "Fuck yeah, AI! Screw the little man. We're just going to use AI to build our things." And clearly, like firing in the case of Assassin's Creed plagiarism or Shadows.
Yeah.
man, it's a tough situation.
It's just such a stark contrast from the quote unquote culturally sensitive company that Ubisoft claims to be, handling this so poorly when you had literally a group comprised of majority white people at Sucker Punch who did such an amazingly beautiful take on Japanese culture, Japanese life, everything.
Not just such a good job. They did such a good job that Japan honored them.
Yeah.
Like practically knighted them in the European fashion to say, you guys did so good. We recognize you and you guys are amazing. Like,
yeah. It's such a stark contrast. It's insane. Contrast.
Yeah.
So
Jinx.
So it's unfortunate. I hope, I mean, I know the reality at this point, this game comes out in a couple of months. Unless Ubisoft puts full stop on it, which they cannot afford to do. We're not going to see a change. No. Yeah, we're not going to see any changes.
And not only are we not going to see any changes, it's highly likely to do super well.
Yeah.
Because the last few games have actually been really good. And I mean, Norse mythology is basically dead, and therefore they can do whatever they want to it, and they can bastardize it as much as they want. The Japanese culture isn't. Yeah. Japanese culture isn't dead, but Assassin's Creed is so well known that I don't think the majority of the world outside of Japan cares.
I don't know. I feel like as Americans, a lot of us, especially our generation, you know, every other country has kind of a sword or like castles or like, you know, they have some kind of medieval-esque lore. America doesn't. So if there's any nation outside of Japan that does care, I would say it's Americans. I grew up loving the katana. Like I was, dude, I'm still obsessed with ninjas, still obsessed with samurais. Like
the honor of Japan, like the Last Samurai, that movie, that for me particularly instilled the fact that they cared about perfection in everything. When they poured tea, it had to be done perfectly, let alone anything of importance.
Yeah, I mean beyond that westernized movie, you've got Yojimbo, you've got Seven Samurai, you've got Zatoichi. Like, there's so many great.
There's plenty of movies. Yeah,
there's so much great culture.
That movie in particular, like, really instilled that.
Yeah, they did a good job with it. Yeah, they did.
They care, and it's just literally just they care. That's it.
Yeah,
like America, you can't say that. We don't care. It's Philadelphia. Yeah, and the fact that you're that's not Canadian. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Montreal. That's kind of where it started.
Yeah, Ubisoft is Canadian. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Ubisoft is Canadian, and I don't know. It's disappointing.
Yeah,
that's the best way to put it.
That is really what it all boils down to. But let's go ahead and move on to our next big topic and talk about something that doesn't look disappointing.
Yes,
Black State is a newly announced third-person shooter espionage. Yeah, go ahead. Metal Gear like maybe
ish.
Yeah. It's definitely got some Metal Gear vibes to it. So this is a game that I haven't read much into. It literally, like, Tim posted it in the Discord not too long ago, and I pulled the footage. Thought it looked cool. Yeah, thought it looked cool. Threw it in here. To me, I get a lot of Dark Sector vibes. Those of you who don't know Dark Sector, it is the spiritual prequel to Warframe. Aiden Tenno is the guy in that game you play as, and this feels very Dark Sector-y to me, but I can definitely see like the mechanics of, say, maybe MGS4 in terms of movement and gunplay.
Just a quick fun fact about Dark Sector. It was the first, quote, next-gen game for PS4 and Xbox One announced ever.
What Dark Sector? Dark Sector was PS3.
I'm thinking, sorry, PS3. That's what I meant to say. You're right. Thank you for the.
Yeah, no worries. I'm pretty sure, like, I'm going to say this, but I'm not. I'm always wrong, so I'm used to being wrong. Anyways, this is all in-game footage, subject to change, as they say there. Unlike Alcahest, which we'll talk about them a little bit towards the end of the show. What do you think, man? Like, what do you feel? Like, it doesn't feel espionage-y enough for me. Like, it feels like it wants to be Metal Gear, but he goes loud real quick into this footage.
So he does go loud, but if you're listening to the commentary between him and whoever's on the comms,
sure,
He basically makes it sound like you're not supposed to. And when he goes for a stealth kill on someone, he does it stupidly and gets noticed and therefore goes loud, which that to me is a suggestion that was a gameplay decision that the person playing this vertical slice, as it looks like to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the person, quote, making that decision made a bad decision and therefore was noticed. And therefore, when you play it, things can be totally different. You can be stealth from point A to Z and never be noticed and never go crazy like this. Which, honestly, I wish more games that were stealth focused, which this game, maybe it's not stealth focused. I mean, hell, the majority of the gameplay is not stealth focused. I wish more games were stealth focused, that if you do go loud, you're fucked unless you're lucky enough to escape. But this game clearly gives you plenty of options to basically destroy the. You know, you see those memes where they're just like stealth is optional, and then you go
yeah,
into Rambo.
Yeah,
in this game, the trailer looks like that. He messes up, and therefore he goes Rambo and destroys everybody as if he's super soldier. The game looks, in my opinion, the gameplay looks like it plays like MGS4, MGS3 type gameplay, and instantly has my interest because of that. Yeah. But also it looks like it's, stealth is optional.
Yeah. I got some like Matrix 2 vibes with the doors. It felt like the area between the Matrix where like you go through this door, you go through. That was always like, in my opinion, one of the cooler scenes of the second Matrix movie is where they're going between the fucking doors and like traveling across the world kind of thing. I love how he opens the store and he's in the subway and then goes through the subway and he's at the base. It's very cool. So I pulled up their Steam page. Black State is made by Motion Blur. This is their first game. I don't know what the studio was comprised of, in terms of developers on this team. But basically the brief statement here on their Steam page is a secret group of scientists called the Architects? Wow. Don't know why my brain fumbled on that word. Called the Architects. I kept wanting to say archivist. I'm like, that's
archivist. That's the word, archivist.
No, I know, but that's very much not the word on the screen. So it was this weird, like, that's not the word, dumbass. Called the Architects summon you for a mysterious mission. Save the captives and uncover the truth behind a cataclysmic event, but none of you know what's behind the doors.
Before you continue, Before you continue, I actually have a different synopsis, which is interesting enough. It says a former military legend is summoned for a mysterious mission to rescue a captive scientist. Which, if you watch this trailer, you're like, wait a minute, that sounds exactly like the scientist, which escapes me at the moment, his name. But for Metal Gear, he sounds exactly like him.
Omicron?
No, that's wrong.
Opticon.
Opticon, yeah, there you go. Or Otacon, that's his name.
I knew it was something.
He sounds exactly like Otacon. But let me continue. It says, captive scientist and uncover the truth behind a cataclysmic event. The mission assigned by enigmatic architects is shrouded in uncertainty as some doors within the unknown territory lead to unpredictable and perilous destinations, which was actually kind of interesting. If you notice in the beginning of the trailer, like, things dramatically changed randomly. Like you went through a door and suddenly it was a subway. And then next thing you know, you're on a military base. And like, anyways, it says each door reveals new secrets and challenges, and he must navigate this treacherous landscape, discovering what awaits him behind each threshold to complete his missions and unveil the hidden truths. And it's like, it definitely feels like old school MGS1, where they're really kind of messing with your brain. And it's intriguing. That's what I'll say.
So if they're using Unreal Engine 5, I'm almost convinced that they're using data layers for their levels. And the reason I say that is they state
You'll
here...
have to explain that data layer.
So... Data layers is a very, very new system in UE5. They demoed it in their tech demo, I believe, a year or so ago. And it hasn't been used in video games a lot yet because it's still very new and people are trying to understand them. How do I explain data layers? They basically...
Is the data layers the thing with the where they showed the forest where things can change?
Yeah, so basically you can you basically load two levels on top of each other, and based on which layer it is in is what's rendered and what the player is in. But they're both there, so they change instantly, right? So if they're using Unreal Engine 5, I think that's how they're achieving that, because they say real-time door mechanics experience a groundbreaking feature that allows players to transition seamlessly between levels without the interruption of a loading screen. That's generally your data layer. So you remember that game we saw that was completely wild, and it was like the guy was traveling almost DeLorean style through time, and it was just like instantaneous. Like he was in the future and then he went back in time, and he was on a horse and he had like machine guns and shit. It was a while ago. That I believe was also using data layers. I don't remember for the life of me what the name of that game was, but it was an insane trailer.
What's popping into my mind is the Ratchet and Clank game on PS5 that managed to load multiple worlds at once, like simultaneously, which was pretty amazing. But I know you're not talking about that.
Yeah, no, this was some other PC indie game you showed me. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Anyways, watch as doors open to unexpected and diverse locations, create a dynamic and non-repetitive gameplay experience. These real-time transitions lead to different adventures, ensure players never know which door opens to where, adding an element of thrill and danger to every step of your journey. If desired, players can also return through the same door, offering flexibility and control over the exploration.
Which adds a lot of replayability to the game as well, which is smart. A smart choice. And by the way, the game is built on UE5.
So then, yeah, it's probably data layering is what they're using to achieve that, which is really cool. So, because I haven't, this is like the first, other than that one I mentioned, the first other game that I can see probably using that. Graphically, the game looks point on. In my opinion, it's not over the top. It strikes that good middle ground between hyperrealism and photorealism. So I think they've got a good balance here. I'm a little iffy on the like bullet time slowdown stuff. I have mixed feelings on cover systems. I watched and read a really good article that kind of talked about how they are contrived and they kind of pigeonhole you in terms of gameplay, because now it's just move from cover to cover and shoot. So I have kind of mixed feelings on that, but I don't hold it against a game for making that choice.
No. The thing for the trailer for me that stood out the most, and I'm like, what? Was the dude at the end of the trailer with the Gatling gun? Mm-hmm. Why is he wearing a raincoat? See-through raincoat?
A couple of them were. The one he like runs up and executes does.
No, he's wearing like not a see-through raincoat. This dude's wearing like one of them cheap ass plastic, like
PVC
thin,
plastic fucking raincoat.
Yeah. like is he protecting the minigun or something?
Maybe. Yeah.
which could be a little design touch, but like I was like, what? Why is he wearing a $2 see-through raincoat? I don't know. It stood out to me for some reason. I don't know why. Just to give you a little bit of context here, the developers themselves, quote, say, obviously, we love the Metal Gear Solid series. While working on our extensive, nearly 500-page game design document over 2.5 years, we constantly admired games like The Last of Us, MGS, Uncharted, and many others to push the limits of development and gameplay mechanics. Inspired by these influences, our small team is committed to delivering the highest development quality and exceptional gameplay mechanics, despite our limited size. We strive to create rich and deep storytelling combined with engaging gameplay mechanics, offering an impressive and unforgettable gaming experience. Our goal is to push ourselves to our limits and give gamers the best possible experience that we can provide.
It's not bad.
Which sounds good.
Yeah, I'm watching the animations.
They are pretty good.
They're not bad. They're a lot better than I could make. I'll tell you that much. But it's a cool looking game. The character design for the face, I hope he has a helmet. I'm not super like fond of the weird coif hair that he has. I think he's got just kind of a generic looking face. He's not iconic the way Snake is, you know, and I feel like a game like this, you need iconic, you know, iconography, I guess.
Looking at IGN, the funny thing is you say he looks pretty generic. The first comment sorted by best is it looks good, but also generic.
Yeah.
I wish someone would just make a Splinter Cell like game instead.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you mentioned that. He's definitely a very generic, one-on-one character.
It is.
And it would be nice to be able to cover up his face.
I feel like, I feel like it's a stand-in for the time being. I feel like they have. Hopefully. I'm hoping they have plans to use MetaHuman for the actual facial mesh, because he had literally no facial movement at all. Like there was no sign of agitation, no sign of like any movement in the face when he's getting shot at. So I'm hoping for the time being it's just a stand-in. It is obviously film and development, so or engine and development. So
on the positive side, when we talked about Alka Hess 2 weeks ago, we talked about how when they showed off the game, they didn't say anything about this being, a work in progress or subject to change or whatever. This game, however, does. It says that this is in engine, however, it's subject to change.
Yep.
And so things of the sort that you're mentioning, like facial animations and stuff, are highly likely to change in the future because they're going to add that level of context to make it feel more realistic.
It sets an understanding of where your expectations should be.
Yes.
That's all it is. So, but speaking of a game we talked about a while ago, let's talk about Nobody Wants to Die. We discussed this game back in episode 45. Not All Segues Are Created Equal was the name of that episode. I'm pretty happy for that title.
15, 16 weeks ago.
Yeah. Give or take. I think we've missed a couple here or there, but the actual date of that episode was March 20th was when that episode went live. And it was at Summer Games Fest. We actually saw some in one of them. I can't remember which show.
Summer Game Fest was in March?
No. It was shown again at Summer's Game Fest.
Sorry,
we talked about it. Yeah, we talked about it before Summer Games picked it up. So, or I guess they sent it to Summer Games. Either way. So I like to think we broke the news on this one, but probably not since we took somebody's news to talk about it.
We didn't break the news. However, we talked about it before it became mainstream.
Yeah, we're the hipsters of the podcast. We talked about it before it was cool.
Yeah.
So I was sold on this game literally the first trailer I saw, only because it's exactly the aesthetic I like. It's got that like 1940s vibe. Like, yeah. It's cyberpunk, but it's also kind of BioShocky, which you mentioned.
Yes, I mentioned that off camera or recording. It has a very BioShock look to it. And one thing that I had told Russ before we started recording was that I honestly can't really think of any games that aren't made by the development studio of BioShock that are BioShock-like and are good. With the exception of Atomic Heart, I have not played it. I really want to, but I can't think of any others that are very, very BioShock-like and good.
The only one, like I mentioned before the show, is System Shock, which is what BioShock was based off of. And they did do a remake of System Shock. Hopefully they'll do a remake of System Shock 2. But there aren't a lot that kind of like feel BioShocky. I know what you mean, because it's more than just first person. It's everything else that goes with it. There's a lot of indie games I think that do it. Most of them are like indie horror games now. Like I know Bendy and the Ink Machine has a very BioShocky vibe.
I've heard of the franchise, but I've never played them.
You're not missing much, in my opinion. But this game is awesome. You are a film noir detective in the like 2500s. So like dude, there's even commentary where he sees a bicycle and he's like, what the fuck is this thing? Like, it's so cool. I don't know. It's very fun. Tim, you said it looked, what did you compare it to? You said it looked like something.
I said it looked like BioShock meets Batman Arkham.
That's what it was. Yeah. Because of the investigation and then the settings and stuff like that.
Yes. But it's got like an extra layer of the investigation on top of it that Arkham doesn't have, which sort of feels like, I don't know, CSI? Almost?
Yeah, I mean, technically you are more or less a detective. I would say like LA Noire, maybe. Again, that is noir.
Except for you can recreate the crime scenes in a way that LA Noire wouldn't let you. But LA Noire is like in the 40s or something.
Yeah.
Which, interestingly enough, a lot of the feel of this game does sort of feel like it's set in the 40s.
Yeah, a lot of Art Deco and that kind of like brass and coppery. Yeah.
So let me just add real quick here. I'm looking at comments of games that are similar to BioShock. Prey, made by the that game was what, 2020, something like that.
Yeah,
that was definitely a BioShock-like game. Yeah. And so I have to correct myself there.
Yeah,
Prey is one of them.
Yeah. Sure. I think there was one other I was going to say. I've forgotten it, but I like the story to this game. Basically, if you've seen the show Altered Carbon on Netflix, swear to God, make another season. Please bring that show back.
I think it's been canceled.
Yeah, I know. It's just, not enough cyberpunk stuff in my life. There just never will be, never has been, never going to be. The idea here, from what they say in the commentary for this trailer, gameplay video, is basically no one owns their bodies anymore. You actually rent them as a subscription fee, which is disturbingly close to reality.
Yeah, quite a lot. I don't remember the movie, but there's a movie with Bruce Willis, if I'm not mistaken, where they've got robots effectively that are them, and they just stay in their home all day, but they like join a VR thing of them controlling this robot version of themselves. Yeah, and like that's kind of what, like, it sounds like they're sort of playing on that, but effectively paying a service fee to do so.
Yeah,
and
so
good God, like what isn't subscription based these days? And fuck me, you just like scared me, and I don't like this idea. Can we just stop now?
Nope, we're here. So the way it works, I guess, is if you negate or go back on your subscription, if you don't pay your fees, right, your body gets repoed. It actually gets put up for auction, wildly enough. Yeah. And then whatever the chip, the stand-in, Tim just killed himself. Whatever the stand-in is for the quote-unquote soul that is housed inside the body, you basically get shelved. Again, very similar to Altered Carbon and how Altered Carbon works. But yeah, so it's this whole idea that like nobody actually dies anymore. You end up in a warehouse in like a weird sense of purgatory forever. And you are this legendary detective who is now obviously an alcoholic. Insert all of your 1940s noir tropes here. Probably you'll see a femme fatale. If you don't, this game's 0 out of 10.
It's really interesting. So cyberpunk usually feels like a touch of cyberpunk, but like super futuristic.
Yeah.
And this game is like super futuristic meets super early 1900s, I guess, rather than super old school. But like it mashes the two so well. If you are not watching this, meaning you're listening to it, go look at this 10-minute trailer. It's such a unique mash of old school and super futuristic that it's hard to be like, oh, this looks cool. It's hard to say that it doesn't look cool.
Yeah.
And the way they're doing it is really, really intriguing. Yeah. It's hard not to look at it and go, I want to play that now. Can you give it to me, please? Now?
No joke. Like I said, man, the first time this came across our desks, I was like, if this is what it is, it's good. It's real good.
It was just a concept trailer at that point. It wasn't even gameplay, but now that I'm seeing gameplay, like it's delivering in a good freaking way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got some cool stuff going on. There's not a whole lot more to say on it than that. The game looks awesome. If you like first person, Logan, I know you don't. Sorry, buddy. If you like first person, story driven, narrative, detective stories, this is going to be right up your alley. If you enjoyed the investigation side of Batman Arkham series, you're probably really going to like this. So,
that's not accurate. There's no way that's accurate.
What's that?
I just Googled the release date for this game, and it says July 17th, which is in 4 days. 4 days from recording, which is today's the 13th.
Yeah.
That'd be right.
Yeah. Nope. Planned release date, July 17th, 3 days.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yep.
I got an Uber.
It's on Steam right now.
It does state that it's going to release digitally for the PS5, the Xbox Series, and the PC on July 17th. But wow, like I was not aware that it was releasing in 4 days.
Yeah, I don't remember them giving us a release date at the Games Fest.
I don't at all. I mean, the Summer Game Fest only like a month ago. I don't remember this either, but maybe I missed it. But either way, still July? Really?
Yeah. It's July 17th. Yeah, it looks cool. I'm excited to play it. I don't know when I'm going to get the chance, but I am absolutely throwing money at this the second it comes out because I want it. I want it bad. I want to own it, and I'll play it eventually. But
well, for those of you listening on Wednesday or later, it either released today or it released
yesterday. Or, in the past.
Whatever day you listen to this, on the 17th, Wednesday, July 17th.
Time travel is a funny thing. Hello from the past. That is kind of our big news. Tim, what do we got for some quick topics? We got a few, right? We got some topics.
We always got some quick fire, just like last week's entire episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, speaking of that, I think you made a bit of a mistake last week, huh? You bought a game.
Which one are you talking about?
You bought a game. And then that game is now...
Oh, yeah. So we're going to start with number 3.
Yeah, sure.
That's fine. It's fine. No big deal. I've got a quick fire list. And so he decided to jump to 3. In any case, I bought Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, which... Did I talk about that last week?
I've
had enough to drink.
You did.
I'm not sure. Okay.
You did.
So yeah.
Damn fool.
I bought it. Yeah,
during
I bought
the
it.
Steam summer sale of all times, of all games at all times.
I do believe I commented on the fact that you guys would be not happy with me.
And you are correct.
Let's just say that thankfully, I'm pretty sure I stated I played it for about 2.5 hours. Thankfully, I only played it for 1.6 hours because that allowed me to, over the course of this last week, Amazon Prime announced that this game was going to be free on the Amazon Prime Gaming if you have Amazon Prime. And so, thankfully, I played it for an hour, 1.6 hours. And so I was able to request a refund, which I did get. It took me a couple of days, but I got it. And now on Tuesday, I will be able to get it for free on Amazon Prime, which I think it might be the Epic Game Store version of it. So just to let you guys all know that. But it's still free. If you have Amazon Prime, go claim it for free. Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure I'm accurate on this. You have 48 hours, meaning you have Tuesday and Wednesday to claim the game. If you don't, you cannot get it.
So that means if you're listening to this when this came out, get your game. Tim, I'm going to let you know, I am going to do the unthinkable. And I am going to get this game because you know what? Free 99 is the exactly right price for the horrible crapshoot that is that game. But you know what? It's free.
Like I've told multiple people, I plan on playing the storyline and being done with it.
Yeah.
And my understanding of the storyline is actually pretty good. And the little bit that I played of it, the voice acting, the character models, the gameplay is good enough.
For free. It's good enough for free.
Yes. Yes. It was good enough for me at $20, but in any case,
it's good enough for me at free.
So for anyone that's on the Patreon side, you have a couple of days. For anyone on the free side, if you listen to this on Wednesday, you better claim it before the day's over.
Yep.
For anyone outside of Wednesday, I'm sorry, you missed it.
You should listen to us on our stream and join our Patreon. Yeah.
Yes. Listen to us live, or like he said, listen to us on the Patreon side.
Yeah.
Anyways, the other quickfire news we have is... So we couldn't find the actual episode that I had predicted this, but
I feel like it was
weeks
very
back,
recently. I honestly feel like it was very recent.
I think it was within the last 2 months, probably more like month and a week. So like the last 5 weeks. Basically, me and Russ discussed that Game Pass is going to see some sort of major overhaul. And that overhaul is not only going to include a price increase, but it's also going to include a new tier. And this new tier is not going to have day one games for Xbox games. And well, to make it short, I was right. Microsoft over the last week, a couple of days ago, I've had enough drink. A couple of days ago, they announced a price increase for the Xbox Game Pass, or the Microsoft Game Pass, not Xbox anymore. Sorry.
Yeah,
the Microsoft Game Pass. Yeah. The Microsoft Game Pass now, there's no longer Core, I think is what it is. I'm not sure I'm getting my names accurate.
It's irrelevant.
It's confusing to say the least. Twitter has been like, this makes all the sense, and everyone's fucking confused, more or less. They made it far more confusing than it needs to be. But basically, the original tier of the original lowest tier that you can buy, which if I'm not mistaken was normally $10 a month. If you have it now, It's going up $3 in price. However, you will still keep access to all Xbox games day one. If you join from that day on, meaning now and in the future, you will be paying that $13, but you will not be getting Xbox games day one. And Microsoft has said that they might consider delaying those releasing on Game Pass per game. So some games might come sooner, some games might come later, depending on what game it is. Meaning what they're saying is if it's Hellblade, you'll get it much sooner. If it's Call of Duty, you'll get it much later because they want you to buy the game. Basically, is what they're saying.
They're finally realizing that selling subscriptions is not as good as selling games.
Yes. If you want day and date games, also they got rid of the option to buy Game Pass that doesn't include Xbox Live. So now you have to pay $20 a month for Xbox Live and Game Pass. There's no choice. If you want day and date games, you have to buy the most expensive option.
I'll just buy the game, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Which, don't get me wrong, it's still a decent deal.
I just prefer to own my games.
Yeah, one, I prefer to own my games, and two, $240 a month versus PlayStation's $160 a month, where you get PlayStation Plus to play online, plus 500 more games accessible to your option. Which, to be completely fair, not Microsoft, but Sony is probably likely to follow them in price increase sooner rather than later, in the next year, more than likely. I'm going to say that now. But Microsoft did state before the acquisition went through of Activision that they're not going to increase the price of Game Pass. But they did anyway. And I'm going to be completely transparent and honest here. They said they're not going to increase the price of Game Pass due to the acquisition.
Arguably, they did.
Arguably, they did. They're going to say market conditions. But like you said, they realize that subscriptions aren't enough. They have to increase the price. Whatever. Increase the price.
Let's go ahead and move on with the quickfire news and make these ones a little bit quicker.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The next option is Throne and Liberty, which is a new MMO, which I don't remember who's making this.
NCSoft.
Basically. NCSoft, okay. Yeah. Amazon is publishing it, though. It'll be available, I believe, on PlayStation.
Yeah, it'll be on
PC.
PlayStation and PC.
Xbox?
I believe so, yeah.
I can't remember if it's on Xbox or not. But basically, it's a new MMO that looks actually rather interesting. Amazon is publishing it, although they are not making it.
Yeah.
And it is the open beta is releasing, I believe it's the 18th. Is it the 18th or 17th?
Open beta.
I have it pulled up
18th.
somewhere.
Yep, July 18th. Open
18th.
beta.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
It's releasing on the 18th. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if the beta is releasing on both on everything or if it's just PC or not. Yeah, look that up for me.
It is on PC, PS5, and Series X.
Okay, good. So the beta as well?
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole thing?
Yep.
Okay, good. So your platform of choice, except for Nintendo, fuck you guys. That's basically the trend these days. Yeah, I agree. Like the Nintendo really needs to get on their game and release the Switch too. Anyways, Throne and Liberty. It's a new. My understanding, based on what I've read on Throne and Liberty, is that it's a very traditional MMO, except for the fact that they're trying to change it up to be different enough to not just be a carbon copy of WoW or Final Fantasy 14 or any other.
It's in the Lineage series. It's a sequel to the Lineage.
It is a sequel, but it's almost not quite. Almost a spiritual successor.
Yeah, we have talked about the game on the podcast before. If you want to hear more about it, you can find that episode in our backlog. I don't remember exactly which episode it is, but we did talk about it. Game looks great. Let's talk about...
Just go look up some gameplay.
There you go.
Yeah, more or less. It looks interesting. The open beta starts on the 18th, which is 5 days from today, which is the 13th again. Other quickfire is Hellblade 2's numbers were released. The game that's an Xbox exclusive, obviously PC as well. It depends on how you look at this. Some people think it's good. Other people think it's bad. Basically, when it released, it was the 37th best-selling game of the month, which was last month. which doesn't sound great, especially when you consider it's like a major production. It was the 21st best-selling game on Xbox, and on Game Pass, it was the 12th most played game behind Fallout 76.
It's pretty mid. I'd say it's pretty mid.
I'd say it's either mid to not great. That's the way I would put it. And I hope that's not bad, because I love the studio and I love what they do, and I hope this doesn't spell any bad things for them. My understanding is that they're working. Their next game has been greenlit. Whatever that next game is, it's been greenlit already. So hopefully that game does well, so they don't get canceled like, say, the Hi-Fi Rush developers.
Yeah. I mean, that's the risk you take when you sell yourself to a big corporation, unfortunately.
Yep. Next bit of news, PlayStation Portal, which is... So if I'm not mistaken, Sony actually said that this was going to be considered hardware, not an accessory, like say a PlayStation 5 controller or something like that. Except for... The PlayStation Portal has been considered the best-selling accessory for not only last month, but also all of 2024. So I'm a little confused by this.
I mean, considering it's definitely an accessory. I mean,
I agree with you, but I'm pretty sure Sony said that they were going to call it a hardware.
You can call it hardware, sure, but you can call a controller hardware. You know what I mean? Like it's still a piece of equipment that requires the console, so it's not standalone. So it has to be an accessory.
Yeah, exactly. You need something else to use this thing, therefore it's an accessory.
Until you crack it and then put, Android on it or whatever. And
True.
Then it's
we talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that. We mentioned that, yeah.
Regardless, most of the internet, when it was announced, basically said this is stupid, it's going to fail, and long story short, they're wrong. It's selling really, really well. And personally, I've gotten a lot of use out of it and my PlayStation 5 because of it.
Yeah.
So I know it's not for everybody. Some people, it's a stupid device, but for people like me that have lack of time, it's a godsend.
It's a great thing. Like I've realized that with my Steam Deck too, that it's a great thing to just grab and play for 5 minutes while you're taking a shit in the short amount of privacy that you have, and then put it down and go back to doing all of the dad things you have to do.
Yes. Yeah. Or, the 20 minutes before bed, laying in bed, playing a game. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the last bit of quickfire that I have is the Nintendo Switch is now officially Nintendo's longest serving mainline console ever.
Is it really?
It released. Yes, it has been alive longer than any other console before the next generation of their console came around.
Wow.
We know the Switch 2 is coming. Yeah. There's been rumors forever. There's actually credible rumors that Nvidia is like, what the fuck, man? Release the Switch 2 already. But Nintendo refuses to. Like every time they talk about having a next, sort of conference, they're like, nope, we're not talking about the Switch 2, so don't get your hopes up. Maybe they're going to pull a Fallout 4 with this and go, hey, by the way, it's available tomorrow. Like,
I mean, to be fair, you joke, but that's kind of been their track record lately. Most of their games they announce are like, yeah, this is coming in the next 6 to 8 months. So
yeah, the last 4 years for them has been exactly that.
Yeah.
So I kind of hope that's the case, but we are past the midpoint of the year, and they don't have a lot of time to. I mean, I guess at this point they really don't need to have any, hype built up.
No.
They just need to go, hey, by the way,
the hype is already there.
Console.
Yeah, like everybody has made the hype for them. Yeah, everybody's done it.
So I did read something recently where basically Nintendo is they're trying to stockpile as many Switch 2s as they can so they can avoid scalping of the console.
Here's
go ahead.
There are better ways to do it than to just make sure you have quantity, because quantity is not going to solve the problem. What's going to solve the problem is making literal, technically a lot of places already did solve the problem. Some of them, you get a queue, and then you have to literally put in your identification information, like your literal
ID. Just like I did with the PS5.
Yeah. That's how you fix this. You literally set a quantity limit based on ID, and sure, there's ways around that, right? If you're a group of people trying to get mass quantities, you're probably still going to be able to get mass quantities. And then you just set a limit to it, man. And it doesn't have to be 1 per ID. Maybe people do want to buy 2 of them. Maybe they want to buy 3. Maybe make the limit 5. Maybe make it so people can't buy 20 of them in one go. Like, it's not a numbers problem. It's how many you allow people to buy. That's the issue. Yeah. You don't even need an ID. Make it not email. Make it email, but like age of email or something. Like, there's ways to make
the way it worked for me in the PS5 was it was a random queue, and if you passed that random queue, you moved into the second random queue. And if you passed that random queue, you had to have a PlayStation Network ID already. So you didn't have to have PS Plus, I think. I can't remember if I had to have PS Plus or not. But I don't think you did. You just had to have a PlayStation ID built. And if you had the PlayStation ID built, they would offer you the option. And if you had like a few minutes to be like, yep, I want that, and pay them. And it was 2 random queues followed by a requirement of having an ID built, that if you didn't have that ID built already, you didn't have enough time to make one.
Yeah.
Which is
the bottom line is there's ways around it.
Enough.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's nothing is ever foolproof. Locks only keep honest people honest. Let's be honest.
Right.
So, it's not foolproof, but the biggest issue, honestly, I think with like the GPU shortage and the PlayStation shortage is there was no physical supply. It didn't go to physical stores. You bought it online and then it went to the store. That was the problem. If they made it so you could just walk into a store and pick it up, you would not have so many of them sold out everywhere from scalpers. You just wouldn't, because it requires physically going into a store and buying them all. So if you ship them physically to Best Buys, Targets, Micro Centers, whatever, it makes the supply more accessible to everybody. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, which supposedly they're doing their best to prevent scalping. Which, like I said last episode, in the solo episode, I think they're gonna have it no matter what they do.
Yeah.
But I do think they can mitigate it by having a shit ton of units available.
They're here's hoping, moving in the right direction.
Yeah, here's hoping that it only lasts for a month or 2 max. And, I guess we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in and listening and continuing to support us. We really appreciate you guys being here. We're going to head over to our Patreon side now and continue the conversation over there and talk a little bit about the new Monster Hunter, as well as some other big topics, because, man, that new one is looking fucking good. And they're doing some pretty unique stuff that I personally cannot wait for. Still got to beat Worlds. But with that...
Was that Zelda?
Sorry. Yeah, that was my... That was my phone. Yes.
Of course I noticed it.
Yes, of course you did. All right. Hey, Tim, I think you got a message for our listeners.
Well, before I say that, just in case you missed the beginning of the episode, if you haven't paid attention or you haven't noticed, we have a Patreon side. Look at our Patreon, just coindropvets.patreon /Patreon.
Nope. Patreon.com/coindroppod. There you go.
that one. We have one. Help us out. We appreciate you guys.
It's in the description of all of our notes, along with our YouTube channels, Tim's personal YouTube, my personal YouTube, our merch store, our Patreon, our Discord. All of the stuff's there. Click the buttons. Yeah. Say hello. Come play some games.
Come join us. Come join us on the Discord side, because we just like to talk video games, and we, every once in a while give away some free games.
Try to.
Yeah, try to. That's probably the more accurate. With that said, tell your mama, say.
Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you next time.